Andrew, we have made it.
We made it. The whole series. We made it through. We're here at the end. We should talk about this series finale. We have thoughts, Jeremy.
Yes, we have reached the finale of WandaVision. It is officially over, and this will be our last video in this series. So we thank you so much for sticking through us. Our last video ever. And I hope not.
No.
But we want to thank you so much for tuning in every week to catch our recaps and review and theories as we've gone through this. If you have just been checking us out, not a subscriber, definitely hit that subscribe button so you can catch our other videos that will be coming out over time. Just again, thank you so much for sticking with us. But let's jump into our thoughts.
Let's recap this episode, Jeremy. What happened? It was a big episode. What happened?
Well, so this was a big episode, of course, being the finale, and it all started where last week's episode ended off, where Agatha has both Billy and Tommy caught in these purple strings things around their neck, and Wanda facing off with them, and it all culminates in the beginnings of a whole episode long battle that starts off between Agatha and Wanda, and different aspects of that, of some small victories, to where then after one of those small victories on Wanda's end, White Vision shows up, that we saw in the post-credit scene of last week's episode, and Wanda's confused and like, Vision, what's going on? Like, who are you? Like, type thing, but like, can't believe it's before her eyes. And he does this whole thing, putting his hand on her head, like gingerly, like, oh yes, I care about you, and then takes his other hand and starts squeezing her head. So, and reveals that in his programming, he is to destroy Wanda. So that then leads to Wanda's vision showing up, and a battle between the two visions happening, like we theorized would happen, which was pretty logical theory. And that leads to battling between the two visions, battle between Wanda and Agatha, and then eventually leads to the town center where Agatha and Wanda are, and Agatha basically eggs Wanda on of like, hey, this is what you've done to all these people in this town, and wakes all the people up to where they all are coming to Wanda and like, just let us go. Like, you don't understand, when you would actually let us sleep, we have your nightmares. We're experiencing all the things that you experience and your trauma, and you're causing us pain. Let us go. And so Wanda and all that decides to open up the hex to allow people to leave, which allows Sword to come in. And so you have Director Hayward and all the vehicles and stuff start pouring in as all the people are trying to flee. And so it becomes like, I think I mentioned, a whole epic battle of Sword, Wanda, Agatha, and the Visions. One thing that's important to note in the battle between Agatha and Wanda, Agatha's doing as we saw in her backstory from the previous week, where she is trying to take on Wanda's abilities by draining them. So every time Wanda uses them and hits her with them, it gives her that siphon capability to start draining those powers. And as she's doing that, Wanda's skin is turning black and dying. So that's going on in their battle. The two visions are battling, which turns into a intellectual, theoretical discussion about who is actually Vision, based off the fact that Wanda's vision has all the emotion and some memories of his time with Wanda, while the White Vision has none of it, but is the actual true physical body of Vision. And they have a whole theoretical discussion. I forget what it was called. I don't remember if you remember.
The Ships of Theseus.
Yes, the Ships of Theseus. Look that up if you want to know more about that. But they debate that back and forth, which leads to Wanda's vision using his abilities to awaken the memories in White Vision, and White Vision then flies away. And that's the last we see of White Vision. In the battle between Agatha and Wanda is basically just using her abilities at this point, saying, Agatha, yeah, take my abilities away, and I don't want them anymore, all these different things, which was all a ruse that we find out on Wanda's part, which eventually somehow, don't fully understand, awakens Wanda's abilities completely to where she officially becomes the Scarlet Witch, gets a whole new outfit with the helmet or the crown and a whole new sleek looking red outfit that's a more modern version of the Scarlet Witch costume, and basically owns Agatha at that point and defeats her and tells her instead of destroying her or doing anything to her, she is going to lock her in some way into the role that she played in all these sitcom episodes of being the nosy neighbor, and turns Agatha back into Agnes and says, you will be living in this town and so I know where I can find you as this character. And she changes her, and Agatha doesn't remember anything and just thinks she's that character now. Some other things happen involving Billy and Tommy, because they're okay. They were told to go back into their house and stay in the room, but Billy can hear and see what's going on with his mom, so they go help. When they show up, Director Hayward, being the complete jerk that he is, decides to unload a whole gun clip on them. and Monica shows up at that point because she has escaped her captivity from fake Pietro, who we found out was actually the Ralph character that Agnes was always referring to in the sitcoms. His name was Ralph Boner, and he is a failed actor. And Monica frees him from the spell that's over him by these beads he was wearing, or a bead necklace. And she then gets to the point where when Hayward is going to shoot the kids, he's starting to shoot bullets, she shows up and is able to have the bullets phase through her and lose their momentum to where they drop on the ground when they go on the other side of her body. Whatever, I guess that's a new type of ability we weren't aware of that she has.
A very useful superpower where you can stop bullets.
Yes, without it being that your skin's impenetrable. Instead, is they go through you and they lose all momentum.
Yeah, Monica's basically has the superpowers of a wall.
Yes. And then Billy shows the ability of that he's actually able to stop one of the bullets as well using telekinesis type stuff as well. And so Hayward's clip is emptied, and he gets locked up in one of the Jeeps, and all that goes on. The one thing I'll say from a recap purpose, Jimmy Woo rose to the occasion of being the very strategic person in this episode. As he got caught, he grabs a phone and uses some things to get his cuffs off and makes a phone call to some people that he knows to get there to Westview within the hour to help what's going on and basically to arrest all the people from SWORD. And so because Director Hayward was captured in the Jeep, he is then arrested at the end of the episode. Jimmy Woo looks like an awesome hero, a very smart person, and all that happens. So that is basically the whole episode from what everything happens, except for what happens with the wrap up with Wanda and her family. Wanda has to make that decision to close the hex completely, and by doing so loses her whole family. And that would be like the final stage for her with the grief she's been going through of acceptance of that this was not reality. I have to put it to an end to release all the people that I've had prisoned, even though it was all unintentional. As we saw before, when the creation of it came out of her own grief. So she puts an end to it. Vision fades away, and so do the boys. But they talk about how family is forever, even in this aspect.
So long, darling.
And Wanda then drives through town and leaves town, has an interaction with Monica, and that's the way the episode ends, is Wanda leaving and everyone in the town's back to normal. Then we get 2 credit scenes. We have the first post-credit scene involves Monica, where some kind of agent person comes to her and says, hey, they're waiting for you in the theater to talk to you. And she goes into the theater, and it's just the agent person that took her there. And the agent person transforms into a scroll, revealing that they were sent there by someone that is an old friend of her mother's, and says they want her to come and help them with some issues they're having, and points up to the sky, meaning that Monica's going back to space.
No longer grounded.
Yep. And that's the end of that scene. And then we get to the end credit scene, which is Wanda at this point has gone to an isolated cabin out in a mountainous region. And it zooms into the house, and you see her sitting on the steps of the front porch and just relaxing, sweats and stuff, walks into the house. And the camera pans back to a back room where you see Wanda in her complete Scarlet Witch costume, an astral projection of her studying the Darkhold book that was revealed in the previous episode, and which was also used by Agatha in this, and studying it to learn things. And before the whole scene ends, you hear Tommy and Billy yelling for help from their mom. And that's the end.
Let's keep it going, so there may be no way of knowing who's coming by to play.
All right, Jeremy, let's talk thoughts for this episode. Now that the series has ended, what are our thoughts on the series as a whole and on this episode? I want to talk about my thoughts for the episode for a second. I was not disappointed by this episode, but I did feel that in the grand scheme of WandaVision as a show, I thought this episode was a little bit weaker and fell a little bit flat. I think the core strength of the show was in its ability to ask interesting questions and explore some interesting situations in different ways. And once the show was done asking those questions, it just kind of reverted back to your standard MCU fare, which is fine. I think people like the MCU formula, but it is very much a formula, so you kind of knew what you were getting with the finale. I think I was hoping it was a lot more restrained in ways that I wasn't expecting it to be. One is in kind of the emotional payoff. There was a fair amount of emotional payoff. I think like the last 15 minutes of the episode are pretty much dedicated to stuff with Wanda and Vision and their family. And I thought that was really good. I think I would have liked to see just a little bit more of that. I'm not sure what else they could have done with it, but I think I was wanting to see just a bit more of that in this episode, since we didn't get a whole lot of it last episode. But it was also like weirdly restrained in the type of stuff that they were doing. It was very much just that the thing we joked about last week, the knockdown, drag out superhero punch fight. And that's fine. I think I would have liked to have seen something a little bit smarter, because the series to this point has been pretty smart. I think I would have liked to have seen a bit more payoff with like previous, like almost like the world is sort of phasing in and out of the different episodes of WandaVision, and I would have liked to have seen that play into the fight a little bit more, just in different levels. And we actually got to see a little bit of that with like the Vision fight. They were actually like using their ability. They weren't just punching each other. They were using their abilities on each other in interesting ways, like Vision, the good Vision phasing kind of in and out of the bad Vision, and just the way that they use those abilities was cool. And I would have liked to have seen more of that. And I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was really, really hoping that we would see the return of like drunk Paul Bettany with like, I was hoping like Good Vision would like get some chewing gum and stick it in Bad Vision, and that would like gum up his works, and it'd be cool, a little payoff to that joke from earlier in the series. So I was a little disappointed to see that didn't pan out, but I was really hoping for it. Overall, I did like the episode a fair amount, but I do think this was one of the weaker episodes of the series. Now that the whole thing is done.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Like, it's like they didn't really call back to anything that they had already done in the show, other than like when the Hex was breaking down, and like there's going back and forth between some of the series type stuff of the different generations and decades. But beyond that, it was like, yeah, there wasn't any callback to anything that they had gone through so far in this episode, in this whole series. And it was just, like you said, a beat-down, drag-out fight. And especially with the Agatha-Wanda fight, which I can understand why they went that route, because this was truly a coming-of-age story for Wanda, where she was becoming the Scarlet Witch that everyone has read about in the comics, and becoming that person who has these crazy abilities that basically, as it was described, is a powder keg that could go off at any moment and destroy everything. And so I understand an aspect of why that it was more of that type of fight for on her end, because of she was discovering what she can actually do. Anything she has done so far up to this point in any previous movie was something that was done out of emotion. Like when she pretty much had almost obliterated Thanos in Endgame, that was out of grief and anger, because it was Thanos was the one who killed Vision. But she was only using her abilities out of that emotion. She's never had complete control of everything she can actually do. And so that was the purpose of this whole series for sure, to have that come about. So I can understand from that aspect why that was more of what that fight was like. But I would agree, it would have been nice to see more of the actual, like, paying tribute to what the show has been, and the fact that it has been such a different tone compared to the rest of MCU, instead of just becoming what the rest of the MCU is. But yeah, overall, like, I did enjoy it as a finale. I mean, it's very much locks it up to where I don't see how they would do another season of this. This is very much feels like it was a one-off thing. But from the finale standpoint, it was good in the instance of we got to see the full Wanda character come to that conclusion of somewhat of acceptance. There is still probably some aspects of that still needs to be explored, because the fact there is definitely still grief that she's dealing with from the fact of now having to let go of her whole family. That's potential, especially with the reveal of somehow Tommy and Billy are alive somewhere. That may be explored in the future more so now. But even with White Vision, like, I wasn't that disappointed with the fact that he just flew off and we didn't see anything else happen with him, because it actually makes a lot of sense. Because yes, while he has all the memories of what happened now in his life, the emotions that come with those memories he doesn't have, because he's still a cold, logical AI now, that while he knows all the things that happened, he didn't experience them himself. And so he's going to have to rediscover that before he could actually come back into the fold. So I understand why they didn't do more with him after he got his memories back and actually have some kind of conclusion between him and Wanda. They left that for the future because of that. And I think that makes a lot of sense from a character development standpoint. The one main thing I'd say with the finale that disappointed me was the reveal of Pietro being nobody. That he was just a failed actor. Like, he was nobody else. And it's frustrating, because from the Marvel standpoint, they've done this before with a character being a red herring, when they did that with Iron Man 3 and the Mandarin, and it's actually almost the exact same thing. The Mandarin was an actor, and that a lot of the people in the fan base did not like that. They had a really bad response to that. While it might have been funny, it was a disservice to the Mandarin character, and from what people knew. And that's, I think, how few people are responding to this as well, of like, this wasn't funny at all, and it was just a quick quip of his name, and then from there nothing else happened. And it was just, from all the theories that went around, not that Marvel had to pay off on all the theories, the fact that they intentionally used Evan Peters to be this version of Quicksilver, knowing that would stir all the fan base, thinking, oh, now that they own the X-Men, they're doing something with it, and there's going to be something with the multiverse and all this, like, and then they didn't do anything with it. It really was an upsetting thing for me as a fan, and I know that's the consensus in the fan base out there, is that it was kind of a slap in the face to all the fans to actually do that. It would have been better to bring back the guy who actually played Quicksilver if that was what they were going to do, and rather than use Evan Peters. And I mean, Evan Peters has been an awesome sport. He, on the day of the finale on Twitter, he talked about how it is just really cool for him to be a part of the show, and really like enjoyed being around the cast and everyone and getting that opportunity. And before it was even revealed for everyone who he actually was. But I mean, that was for me, that was kind of the disappointment, just because that's not, I mean, Marvel's done it before and it didn't go well, so it surprised me that they did it again. And not something I'm hoping they learn from this one and say, yeah, we probably should never for sure do that again now. But
Yeah. Well, it is kind of like how we suspected when he first came on the scene. It was either going to be, bringing in the multiverse or just a bit of awesome stunt casting. And I guess it was just a bit of awesome stunt casting that didn't turn out to be so awesome.
Yeah. So, but like you said, like I thought it was overall, it's a good episode. Not the strongest episode of the season at all, but enjoyable, and it definitely sets things up where you're now wondering, okay, where are things going to go?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big question that I felt like they asked a lot in this episode is, oh, where's this going? I mean, White Vision going off. Where's White Vision going? What were some of the other things? Monica having quote unquote superpowers. Sure, Marvel. Where's that going? What were some? I felt like they had a couple big threads that they left hanging there for us.
Well, Agatha being now locked into a body of the Agnes character. Where's that going? Tommy and Billy being apparently alive and screaming for help. Where's that going? So this episode had a little bit of the problem that I had with the Mandalorian season 2, where it felt like there was a lot of setup for other things. I'm glad they kept it all to just one episode, and the series finale being, or at least the season finale, I'm guessing probably the series finale, makes more sense that it would do just that episode, but I would have liked a little bit more payoff to just what we saw. I don't mind it. I think it's good to ask a few questions to keep people in the series, but I think they asked maybe a bit too many and too big of questions. All right, so looking at the season as a whole, what are your thoughts, Andrew?
Good season. Good show. Really enjoyed it. A lot of fun to go on a slightly different Marvel-themed ride through the MCU. It still ended up being the MCU, which once again is fine. Very enjoyable. You could probably just sort of ride the fast forward on those first 2 episodes, but everything after that, pretty good TV. Really enjoyed it. What were your thoughts, Jeremy?
I would agree. I would say overall it was a very good season. It's a very good addition to the MCU canon of something that was different, something that was unique, that while yes ended in the same vein as MCU stuff, it's something you can look back on and say they did it again. They did something different and it worked. And people were sucked in. Like you said, the first 2, and I would even say maybe even the first 3 episodes, you could kind of just skip all of those and get a highlight reel of what the big things that happen, and then start with episode 4, because that was when things really started to pick up and things were more unique. But overall it was a good season of TV, of something that was done well, and the actors, especially from a acting standpoint, were phenomenal. You got to see more from Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany that they've not been able to do with their characters, which that was fantastic, because
I felt like I had a really good understanding of their characters from just this one season of TV than I had all the previous MCU movies that they've both been in.
Yep. And I think that's what the series for Disney Plus are going to do. This is the first official Marvel Disney Plus series, even though Falcon and Winter Soldier was originally supposed to come out first. This is the first series, and you're seeing now this is what it's going to do. It's going to give us the time that we've not had in the movies to focus on some of the other characters that deserve some focus, and us to understand them more and see them develop. And that's mostly the thing that excites me going forward with all these shows. Is that's what I expect now from Falcon and Winter Soldier, is while it's going to be a totally different style of show, probably going to be more in the vein of the normal MCU with some comedy, it's a story that's going to dive into the Winter Soldier and Falcon character. And that's not something we've had from the movies. And so it's giving us that capability to get more connected with these characters. So then when they are in movies again, we have that depth now to where there's more of an impact with the things they actually do in the movies. So from not just a overall view of the whole season, but from what the strategy standpoint for Marvel, it gets me excited to see what they're going to continue to do, because this was a very good iteration of TV and something that was entertaining and that they did well with, and it developed their characters. And especially this show was about Wanda, and they have now, and it progressed Wanda's story to the point now where she is a different character. She still has some of the same aspects and went through the stuff she did, but she's going to be a different type of character now going forward. And it's going to be cool then to see that dynamic of how does she interact with Doctor Strange, since they have abilities that are in the same vein of magic. How is she going to interact with Thor or the Guardians of the Galaxy or any of these other people in the future, with the fact of how having a new outfit, you already can guess that there's gonna be comments on what she's wearing by other characters and all these different things, and that's the things that's exciting as we see this progression happen even with the Wanda characters, the interaction she's going to have now in the future, and what will that look like. So I would agree, a very good season of TV. It's definitely worth it. And I mean, I'll even say like the whole 9-episode limit, it fits into what a lot of the other series that are out there that are streaming, like on Netflix and stuff, like Stranger Things and everything. Like, it very much fits in that vein of you're able to do a lot in that short amount of episode count. And it makes you really wonder with Falcon and Winter Soldier, since there's only 6 episodes for that one, what in the heck's going to happen in those 6 episodes?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, again, I would say I agree, a very good season of TV. Definitely worth watching, and definitely something I'm glad that they had the guts to try and do.
All right, should we thank the audience for watching and close us out? Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but my stomach is growling a lot.
I had to yawn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, we want to just thank you again so much for taking the time to watch these recaps and listen to our thoughts and theories. As we said, this is it. This was the finale, and we'll be signing off from our WandaVision recaps. We will not be doing recaps for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but stay tuned because you may see us come back for Loki in the summer. But in the meantime, we do have a lot of other content on the channel. If you want to check it out, we have our continuing Legend of Zelda voiceover episodes that come out bi-weekly, as well as our final Halo episode comes out on Wednesday. But going forward, you will be seeing other types of content of just different video game type essays and potential Madden rebuilds and other things, and potentially some stuff involving Batman.
Sounds really interesting. I think I'm going to subscribe to this channel, Jeremy. But seriously, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been fun to do these. It's been fun to theorize every week. I'm still bummed that there was no John Rambo. Hashtag John Rambo is not coming, capital on the N-O-N-T there. But, you know, maybe WandaVision Season 2, John Rambo. Could happen. You never know.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget, keep an eye on your health bar.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning into HitPoint. We hope this refilled your health bar and provided a much-needed mental break. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the logo that's over my face. Or if you want more content, click here or here.